I did not mean to do that. Okay. So everyone should have this Haggadah, lovingly put together by our very own Rabbi Wolk, and with help from Teret Abramson and Yonatan. And we've tweaked it a little bit this year. But if you have a Haggadah that you really love and you want to have that also with you, that is perfectly fine. This is all about, we're kind of taking a ceremony that we were used to doing at home with our like very strong family customs, and we're doing it together. So at any point, if someone wants to share in the chat box at the bottom to make a comment, share a memory or something significant, or hey, I really love this ritual, this is meaningful to me, that would be really lovely. I'm going to be posing questions in addition to the 4 questions throughout the Seder, and I'm going to ask people to answer in the chat, because we have lots of folks here, and if everyone started talking at once, it might be a little distracting. And I have invited some congregants to read certain parts of the Haggadah to lead us, just the same as if we were going around a table and different, but we're doing it by households. So let's start. On page 1, my sister is going to sing the order of the Seder.
Thank you, Sharon. Kadesh Orchatz, Karpas Yachatz, Magi, sorry, Magid Rachza, Motzi Matzah, Maror Korech, Shulchan Orech, Safun Barech, Hallel Nirtzah.
Thank you, Amy. And we had the same Hebrew school teachers who taught us exactly the same way. So I invite everyone to please rise, take your first cup of wine in hand. And we begin in the middle of the orange rectangle. Sarim Rabbanabrabatai, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Barei pari hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'am, from among mikol ha'shon, v'kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'titan lanu Adonai Eloheinu moadim l'simcha, hagim uzmanim l'sason, et yom chag hamatzot hazeh, zman cherutinu, mikra kodesh, zeker l'tziat Mitzrayim, v'ivanu v'charta, v'yatanu kitashta, mikol ha'amim, u'moadei kodshecha, V'simcha u'sason hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Kadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, She'achiyanu, v'kiyamanu, v'higiyanu, lazman hazeh. And we take first cup of wine. So as you see at the bottom, we thanked God who brings forth fruit from the vine, who sanctifies Israel in our holidays, and who has brought us to this joyful time. All of the festival Kiddush blessings are the same for the 3 festivals. I'm going to turn the Seder over to my beloved colleague, Rabbi Stan Miles, who has, this is the first of many elements of the Seder that are going to reflect all of our collective experiences with the global pandemic this past year. Rabbi Miles?
Thank you, Cantor Horties. This year, we are all survivors. Everyone at this Seder has survived the pandemic, and please God, we will continue surviving. And so tonight, we are going to say the special Gomel prayer in thanking God for taking us out of danger. I will read the bracha itself, and then there is a congregational response. We are at the top of page 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hagomel v'chayavim tovot shagamalni kol tov.
Mi
let's
shagmal lech kol tov hu igam lech kol tov selah.
And now I'm going to go off camera for just a second because I'm going to wash my hands. And we know it's a Jewish ethic because you can complete the phrase, cleanliness is next to
Godliness. We didn't rehearse that, I promise. I'm going to also wash my hands, and anyone else who would like to may do it. And this is where we wash our hands and don't recite the blessing.
Okay. I think you can get me.
Okay. This is a delicate procedure with all these wires here washing my hands on the table. Okay. Thanks, Mom. Boy. I'd like to invite the Bird family to unmute, and as all of us take a sprig of parsley or a piece of lettuce. Some families do lettuce. And dip the lettuce in the salt water.
It's the salt water.
Okay. Or parsley. You say the lettuce. Or something else. Okay.
Is it
I am
10 salty?
so dip.
Is it 10 salty?
Are you ready for it?
Yeah, why don't you guys go ahead?
We eat a green vegetable to remind us of both the springtime season and the bitterness of slavery in Egypt.
Mhm.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu
Melech
melech
haolam,
borei
borei peri ha'adamah.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, creator of the universe, who brings forth fruit from the earth.
Thank you so much. Tastes like Passover.
Indeed.
So Rabbi Miles is going to continue with, but everyone can do this at home, of course. He's just leading, we're just leading, but everyone can certainly do this at home where you take the middle matzah.
Yes, all 50 some odd of you at the same time, please join me with Yachatz. We break the middle matzah in half. We're going to try to do this absolutely evenly, but it won't happen. Not bad. And we're going to replace one half, the smaller half. We are going to put the middle half in this really neat afikoman bag. And we're going to draw it. And then we're going to be hiding this blue bag somewhere within the confines of our house. And presumably it's going to disappear. It has disappeared. And we will get to that later, much later. Cantor?
So as I mentioned, I'm going to be sprinkling some questions throughout the Seder this evening. And I would love for people to answer in the chat. My next question it's going to be a nice segue into the next part of our Seder, since it is difficult to invite people into our homes this year, not everyone's been vaccinated. Some of us are lucky enough that we do have loved ones who have had both vaccines, but not everyone has. What are some other ways we can follow the spirit of halachma, of sharing what we have to those who are impoverished, either monetarily or impoverished of spirit? What are some alternative ways that we can keep the spirit of halachma anya alive in these very unusual times? So that's something to think about. Even if you don't want to share it in the chat, it's something maybe to meditate on while we're going ahead with the next part of our Seder here. I'll go ahead and sing. I'm at the top of page 4 in the yellow square. Halachma, halachma anyati achalu, achalu havhatana behara behara demitzrayim, behara behara demitzrayim, bikfin yetehol, oditzrich yeteh Hashata, ha, leshana haba, be'arade Yisrael. Hashata, hamte, leshana haba, b'nei chorim. And thank you, Erica Summer, for sharing. I urge everyone to take seriously the power of direct giving as tzedakah. Giving people money directly to meet their needs is probably more effective than most other ways of giving tzedakah. Next time you see a fundraiser on social media to pay for medical bills, housing, etc., make a generous contribution. Amen. Amen. There's so many people who have been so adversely affected by the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, people in really dire straits. Is Tarot on? Is he on TSC? Who's TSC's iPhone? Tarot, going once, going twice. I don't see him on here. All right, let's all read it together. I don't think people need to unmute, but we can read it out loud together. This is the paragraph that begins, "This is the bread of poverty." Hold up a piece of matzah. This is the bread of poverty and persecution that our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are in need come and share in the Passover meal. This year we are still here. Next year in the land of Israel. This year we are still slaves. Next year, free people.
Halavai.
Alavai, amen. Yes. Okay, this is time for the kiddos. Okay, kiddos and young at heart, if you are going to sing the 4 questions and you are a child or consider yourself to be a child, please, please, please unmute. I see David Knowles here, the Gitchell family. I hope I'm not missing anybody who would fall in this category. If there are grandchildren around or other children who are guests, please unmute now. And Melody is going to lead from here. And it might sound a little bit like a cacophonous mishmash, but you know what? The sound of children's voices together is always wonderful. So let's start. Come on. She's chewing. She still is eating her parsley. Okay. Achad, shtayim, shalosh. Man.
Halelot, Anu Ochlin, Sha'ar Gerakot, Sha'ar Gerakot, Halayla Hazeh, Maror, Halayla Hazeh, Maror,
All right, all the kids on mute and help out.
In Anu
Last one.
Shebecho Halelot Anu when you're screen Misubin when we're screen Misubin Halayla Hazeh Kulanu Misubin Halayla Hazeh Kulanu Misubin.
Oh, thank you. I hope all the kids were singing at home and was young at heart. Oh, she gets a big thumbs up from Grandpa Don over
That was
here.
lovely.
Big thumbs up. Make your mama proud. Yasher Koach, Melody. That means you did a good job. And lots of Yasher Koach to all the kids singing at home. And now I'd like to invite the Goldman family and anyone else who's there at their household to please read the translation of the 4 questions. Still on page 4.
How is this night different from all other nights? On all other nights, we eat bread or matzah, but tonight we eat only matzah. On all other nights, we eat all vegetables. Tonight, we do not dip our food once. Tonight, we dip food twice. On all other nights, we sit or recline. Tonight, we eat reclining.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. It's almost as if we're all together. Almost. We're on page 5, and I'm going to invite, in just a moment, I'm going to sing an abbreviated version of what is in the orange rectangle, and then Friedmans are going to read the translation. Please join me if you know this tune, beginning Avadim Hayinu. Avadim Hayinu, Hayinu. B'nei chorin, b'nei chorin, avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, avadim hayinu, ata b'nei chorin, b'nei chorin. Friedman family, would you please unmute and read the translation?
Okay, so you Egypt?
We were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, yes.
Okay.
We were slaves, and God took us out from there with a strong and outstretched arm. And if God had not redeemed our ancestors from Egypt, then we, along with our children and all future generations, would still be slaves to the Pharaoh in Egypt. Even if we were all wise, all scholarly, all elders, all knowledgeable of the Torah, we would still be required to tell the story of the Exodus. And the more one tells the stories, this is too to be praised.
Thank you very much for that spirited reading.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Okay, I have a special guest here. I call him Dad. And this is, but in all seriousness, our story does not just belong to us, the story of persecution and freedom from slavery. And this is a spiritual, actually was a composed piece of music written in the style of a folk song that served as inspiration for the enslaved people in the US.
You can join in if you want. When Israel was in Egypt's land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. The Lord told Moses what to do. Let my people go to lead the children of Israel through. Let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. Yeah, I always wanted to do that.
Okay, great.
I am out of here.
And this is, of course, an issue that exists today. I invite everyone to look in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And according to the International Labor Organization, as of 2016, which is not very long ago, about 40 million people worldwide were working as slaves. So this is a problem we need to address. And if Passover teaches us nothing else, it's to imagine that we ourselves were slaves. And this is sort of a built-in mechanism for empathy. If we feel what that toil must have felt like to our ancestors, it is upon us to take action to prevent that or to end that kind of exploitation that's being visited on other people. Let's continue now on page 6. And I'm going to sing at the top, enjoy the emojis, the lighthearted edition that Rabbi Wolk included in our Haggadah a couple years ago. Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Shenatan Torah Le'amo Yisrael, Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu. Blessed is God, blessed is the one who gave the Torah to God's people, Israel. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Harriet Firkins. She's going to be doing a reading that is not found in the Haggadah. It was in our original version of the Haggadah, but I thought very fitting and fitting for a lifelong educator to share this bit of wisdom.
Educators today speak about multiple intelligences, meaning that different students learn in different ways. Hundreds of years before this educational theory was developed, Jewish tradition reminded us that when we teach our sacred history, we should remember that there are different types of learners. The Torah speaks of 4 children, one wise, one wicked, one simple, and one who does not know how to ask.
Yashar Kol Chet, beautiful, beautiful reading. And I asked the Bear Reskin household to unmute and read the English translation of these 4 children.
Page 7.
Page 7.
7. Ready, King?
What does the wise men say? What are the testimonies, statutes, and laws which the Lord our God has commanded you? You must tell him some of the laws of Pesach. We do not eat any dessert after the Pesach lamb offering. What does the wicked one say? What does this service mean to you? To you and not to him. This child emphasizes you and not himself. Since the child excludes himself from the community and rejects the principle of faith, you should forcibly say to him, "It is because of this that the Lord did for me when I went free from Egypt. Me and not him. Had he been there, he would not have been redeemed." What does the simple child ask? What is this? And you should say to him, with a strong arm, Adonai brought us out of Egypt and the house of slavery. As for the child who does not know how to ask, you should prompt him, as it is said, you shall tell your child on that day, saying, "It is because of this that the Lord did for me when I was free from Egypt."
Thank you very much. Beautiful, beautiful. And of course, I have to, Harriet Bear, also an educator, understood, I'm sure, in all her years of teaching, the many different types of students she would encounter. And the theory is that we all have all of those children inside of us. Sometimes we're the wise child, sometimes we're the questioning child, the rebellious child. And when we try something new, even as adults, and we're encountering something brand new, we might not even know the questions to ask. So these are all of these children live within all of us. We're going to move on to page 8. A story begins when the storyteller makes the choice to begin it. Why do you think the storyteller begins with the story of idol worshipers? Another question, if you have any thoughts or insights onto that question, as the Rothberg family, or the Roths and Weinbergs, read on page 8. You can read together, you can divide it up, whatever you'd like to do. Page 8.
Thank you. Vayikra Rabbah, because of 4 things, Israel was redeemed from Egypt. They didn't change their names or their language. They didn't speak Lashon Hara, and none of them was promiscuous. Esikta, the Israelites were distinct there in that their clothing, food, and language was different from the Egyptians. They were identified and known as a separate nation apart from the Egyptians.
Okay. Rabbi Moshe Sofer, we are foreigners. All right, let us take pride in ourselves, in our history, and in our mission. We refuse to give up our Hebrew names, full of meaning and history. Yes, they single us out as Jews, but they are also a link to previous generations. We may be slaves, but yet let us not surrender our honor. Let's not sell ourselves to the highest bidder. We can metaphorically keep our clothes on and resist the temptation to do what a free man would be ashamed of doing in order to buy our way out.
We face torture. We will do anything to gain release. We use our tormentor's language in an attempt to communicate with him, to try to tell him we are human. It may or may not work, but let us not let the conqueror's language entirely crowd out our own. Let us not forget our own habits of thought, our values, our prayers. Our language is the last link with our inner selves. If we have endured terror and pain, we may have to fight our way back to self-expression. It can be an uphill battle, but oh, what a victory when we realize that we have won through.
So we tend to think of Hanukkah as being the holiday where you talk about assimilation and battling the pressures to assimilate. But here, there's a lot of emphasis on, even though our history began as, or very early on in the history of the Israelites, we were slaves, that's still part of who we are and who we were. I mean, a professor who used to say, you know, people wonder whether this actually happened. He said probably an evidence for it having happened is what kind of people would include their slavery, a shameful period of their history in the retelling of their history. Usually when people talk about themselves, they mention all the high points. Why do we dwell on this very sad, very difficult period in our history? So chances are it happened or something very much like it. Let's continue on page 9. I'm going to sing Vehisha Amda, page 9. Vehisha Amda, Lavateinu Velanu. Vehisha Amda, Lavateinu Velanu. To Lord be healed. Amadalinu Lechalatinu. Ele Shebechol Vador. Malinu Lechalatinu. Ehakad Bashparuchu. Matzilenu Miadam. And this that stood fast for our fathers and for us, unwavering, for it was not one alone who stood over us, a heel on our necks, bent on our annihilation, but in generation after generation, they rise up against us, intent on destroying us, and yet the Holy One, blessed be God, breaks their grip and we are saved. Rabbi Miles, please continue on page 10.
Aramei Aved Abi Yered Mitrayama. An Aramean tried to destroy my father. He went down to Egypt and sojourned there with meager numbers. But there he became a great and very populous nation. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried to Adonai, the God of our fathers, and Adonai heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. Adonai freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm, and by awesome power, and by signs and wonders.
Thank you, Rabbi Miles. And now we're ready for the tactile, very tactile part of the Passover Seder, when we remove a drop of wine or grape juice from our cups. And I want to just mention something from the Torah reading this morning. I always use this as an example that we don't celebrate our enemy's downfall. We remove a drop. For every drop we remove, we are lessening our joy. We're not gloating. We're not happy that the Egyptians suffered the plagues or were drowned in the sea. And there's a very interesting take by the rabbis that there were 3 kinds of Egyptians. There was the Egyptian who wanted the Israelites to stay as slaves, the Egyptians who gave their gold and silver, loaned but really gave to the Israelites who were leaving. The Israelites didn't slip out in the middle of the night. They left with all of these people understanding they were leaving, and they were almost, and I know this is a hot button term, reparations. They gave them gold and silver as they were leaving. And the third type of Egyptian became part of the mixed multitudes who left Egypt with them, who understood that they themselves, even though they were not victims of Pharaoh's tyranny the way the Israelites were enslaved, they understood that was not a world they wanted to stay in. And they saw that God was mighty and powerful, and they were ready to leave with the Israelites. Maybe some of our ancestors were part of those mixed multitudes who left. So we understand, the ones who stayed behind, the ones who wanted the Israelites to remain slaves, were the ones that were the most punished by the plagues, according to the rabbi's explanation. Just food for thought. We remember the 10 plagues that God sent against the Egyptian people. Although we celebrate the Exodus, we do not rejoice over the pain felt by others. As we mention each plague, we spill a drop of wine from our cups. So we get ready, we can do this all together. Dam, blood, Svartea, frogs, Kinim, lice, arov, beasts, dever, cattle plague, shechin, boils, arbe, barad, hail, arbe, locusts, choshech, darkness, makat bechorot, death of the firstborn. And Rabbi Yehuda Haya notain bahem simanim. Rabbi Yehuda came up with acrostics for the plagues, and we continue those 3 more drops. The Tzach, Adash, Be'achav. And I need a napkin. Thank you. Before we begin Dayenu on page 11, I have another contemporary, very 2021 question to ask you. If you were to add to Dayenu this year in your own life, what verse would you add? What are you grateful for? If God had done this but hadn't done that, Dayenu. Is there anything that reflects your experience from this past year that you would add, or simply something that you have become more aware of, more appreciative of this year that maybe you didn't feel like you really appreciated before the pandemic? And something, again, if you want to think about it, meditate on it, or share it.
I have something.
Yeah?
I have something. I appreciated Zoom. I loved having Zoom. It was wonderful.
Right. Yay, Zoom.
Able to do our services on Zoom.
I think we all agree. And as much as we've complained about it and the glitches and I'm sick of staring at screens, I think that it has really kept us connected and together. We are a social creature, and it had not been able to see the faces of our families and our friends and our loved ones, I think it would have been having a much more serious impact on us. Anyone else? Do you want to share in the chat if you'd like, or unmute? That's like.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, we are just thankful that we have you. You're doing a beautiful job. You're wearing two hats, and we're just so proud and so blessed to have you.
Thank you. I must say, I didn't put that question in there asking for compliments.
Well,
Thank you.
Rightly deserved.
Thank you, Mel. I
You're
didn't say,
welcome.
who are you grateful for? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? I'll share that I've, with, usually with 2 kids and activities and everything, we really didn't spend a lot of time together, being rushing from this thing to that thing. And I've spent much more time with my kids, especially my teenage daughter, my Leia, who was around much more. We had family nights, we had movie nights and played games, went for walks in the neighborhood, a time that we would not have had. And my kids have explored all kinds of other activities. Leia has made scented candles this year, got really into ordered kits and made scented candles for her friends. Melody did a lot more drawing. I'll show that. Yeah, Melody, are you okay with showing your weaving? Lego creations. This is something new she's been working on, the pot holders with the weaving, all kinds of crafts and Lego kits, and really fun cooking and baking, all wonderful things we may not have had the time or taken the time to do. And let's try to hold on to all of those things when our lives get back to their busy pace. So I'm going to ask everyone, any other things we're grateful for? I'm gonna ask everyone to mute now, and as we're singing the Dayenu, if you want to add in the chat, that would be what Melody is making things out of clay, and here's our little friend Mochi. I want to put a plug in for this. Has nothing to do with Passover. Waffles and Mochi on Netflix is an awesome show for kids. It teaches them about food and nutrition, and I'm sure if I thought long enough, I could tie it into Passover, but I won't. Let's sing Dayenu, right? All right. And we'll sing the chorus throughout. I'm gonna try to sing all the verses in Hebrew, follow in English. or sing with me the transliteration at the bottom of the page. Either Hotzi mi Mitzrayim v'lo asar vehem shvatim dayenu 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 Yerushalayim shvatim Yerushalayim v'harag b'choreihem Yerag b'choreihem v'lo natalanu et mamonam Either natalanu et mamonam v'lo karavanu et hayam Dayenu, 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 dayenu. Karavanu atayam, aviranu b'tachunu karavan, dayenu. Ilo haviranu b'tachunu karavan, v'lo shikat sarenu b'tucho, dayenu. Ilo shikat sarenu b'tucho, v'lo sipek sarkenu b'midbar abayim shana, dayenu. Everyone, dayenu, dayenu. Dayenu, 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 dayenu. Everyone, dayenu, 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 dayenu. Three lines up from the bottom. Either karavanu lifnei harsin, avilo natalanu et totara, dayenu. Either natalanu et totara, avilo hiknisanu la'eretz Yisrael, dayenu. Either hiknisanu la'eretz Yisrael, avilo vanalanu et beito bechira, dayenu. Dayenu, 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 dayenu. If you want to keep singing that at home over and over again, call a vote. Go ahead. We're going to go on. Rabbi Miles is going to pick up at the top of page 14. And everyone, when it says we lift the shank bone, we lift the matzah, we lift the maror, please feel free to do that at home and show us on the screen. And I have to say, Rabbi Jeff Goomer says grateful to Rabbi Miles, who in our sadness over Rabbi Wolk leaving, having led us. And I have to say, I add that 10,000%. Thank goodness for Rabbi Miles and all of his help, and to Rabbi Yonatan Yasmin, Rabbi Dr. Yonatan Yasmin, for all of his help, and for all of our volunteers who have come to me and said, Cantor Horties, what can we do to help? What can we do to help you take something off your plate? And it's been tremendous. It's only good things can happen from our congregation stepping up and volunteering and taking ownership and volunteering.
Thank you, Jeff.
My dad just said Stan went the extra mile.
That was a great pun, Don.
Great pun, Don. Right. And Elliot's not on. Is Elliot on here? He's usually our punster. So there's one in every crowd. At
We
least
are
one
at
in
the top
every crowd.
of page 14.
Page 14.
Rabban Gamliel Haya Omer, Kol Shalo Amar Shlosha Devarim, Elu Bapesach, Lo Yatsa Yedei Chovato, Be'elu Hein. Pesach, Matzah, Umoror. Pesach, Shahayu Avotenu V'imotenu Ochlim, Bizman Shebeit HaMikdash Haya Kayam, Al Shumma. This roasted lamb bone is called Pesach, the Hebrew name for the Passover holiday. Why is it on our Seder table? On the Jews' last night as slaves in Egypt, each family shared a feast of roasted lamb. When God sent the 10th plague to every house in Egypt, God passed over or skipped the houses where Jews were getting ready to be freed. This lamb was a sign to God that the Jews were choosing to be freed. The lamb bone connects us to that first Passover celebration and reminds us that we are choosing to celebrate Passover here and now. Matzah, zo she'anu ochlim al shumma. This matzah that we will eat, why is it on our Seder table? Matzah is made of the same dough as bread, but we mix and bake it much faster, 18 minutes. That's why it stays flat and dry. Matzah reminds us that when Pharaoh finally agreed to let us go, we had to leave Egypt fast. There was no time for us to get ready or to wait. Eating matzah at the Seder reminds us of slavery and also of freedom, because we took it with us to eat when we could not stay as slaves even one more hour. History's first fast food.
Good one. Good one, Rabbi.
Moror sha'anu ochlin al shumma. This bitter vegetable called moror, which means something bitter. Why is it on our Seder table? Moror has a sharp, harsh taste. Eating the moror is supposed to sting our mouths a little. Moror's harshness reminds us how hard and painful it was being a slave in Egypt for 430 years. It helps us imagine soreness in our backs from lifting heavy bricks. It reminds us of the pain in our hearts when we thought we would never be free. To understand how important freedom is, it is not enough for us to talk about slavery. Tasting the moror, we make sure we also feel a little bit of the slave's bitter pain. It helps us remember that when we get the choice, we choose to be free.
Yasher Koach. Thank you, Rabbi Miles. Let's continue now on page 15. I have another question for the chat box. If you really don't want to put it in the chat and you want to unmute, that's okay too. So put yourselves in the shoes, or maybe they weren't even wearing shoes, or the slaves, but the sandals, or maybe they were barefoot. Put yourselves in the place of the slaves. When finally after the 10th plague and Moses said, Pharaoh said you can go, it was absolutely unexpected. They had lost hope that they would ever be free. They didn't have it in their wildest imagination this would ever happen in their lifetime. It was a wonderful, miraculous thing that happened in their lives that was unexpected. Think of something that was overwhelmingly good that happened to you this year that was unexpected. Something good, kind of a similar question that we had before, but I want to emphasize the unexpected nature. It could have nothing to do with the pandemic. Something unexpectedly wonderful and good that has happened to you this year that you thought would never happen. And add that into the chat as I sing the first part of this next section, in every generation, we are obligated to see ourselves as if we had left Egypt. Again, that empathy piece. Bechol dor vador, chayav adam lirot, chayav adam lirot et atmo. Ve'ilu yatsa, ve'ilu yatsa, ve'ilu yatsa mimitzrayim. Bechol dor vador, chayav adam lirot, chayav adam lirot et atmo. Ve'ilu yatsa, ve'ilu yatsa, ve'ilu yatsa mimitzrayim. Is it okay with the people who put it in the chat? I read it out loud. I don't know if everyone can see it on their devices. My sister wrote, we moved in with my in-laws and got to know them so much better and learned to live communally. We are all here for each other. Beautiful. I know a lot of people had to come home from college, kids who had just made a break from their families and came back home, but enjoyed each other's company. Beth Bryant wrote, my conversion to Judaism, I never thought it would be possible. I am so grateful. Oh, Beth, that means so much. That's so touching. Thank you so much for sharing that. And anyone else who wants to, Melodies, do you have something that happened to you this year? No? Okay. And I want to, something happened to you today. What happened to you today? Melody learned how to weave. She learned a new skill. That's very exciting. The pandemic definitely gave us some new skills. Baking bread is one. I know that was almost a cliche now, but all of the things we all maybe got more in shape, went for walks, spent more time outdoors, all of those wonderful things. I want to invite Frank Bunces to unmute. Being with all of you at our Seder. Thanks, Amy and Gerbner family. Frank Bunces has this similar to Harriet Frankel Ferkins had a reading that's not in the Haggadah. Frank has a reading for a translation of Bechol dor vador. Frank, if you're able to unmute and share with us your reading. Oh, and Sylvia Klein had a great new great granddaughter. Always wonderful, wonderful. Okay, I wonder if he might be having technical difficulties. So we'll move ahead, and maybe if things work out later, he can share that passage with us. In the meantime, I'd like to invite the Rowe family. We conclude the Magid section of the Haggadah by praising God. And the Rowe family, if you could please unmute and read your paragraph, being therefore it is our duty. Rowe family, let's see, ask to unmute. Another option could be if they're not able to, or maybe otherwise preoccupied, we can read it together. Therefore, it is our duty to thank and praise, pay tribute and glorify, exalt and honor, bless and acclaim the one who performed all these miracles for our fathers and for us. He took us out of slavery into freedom, out of grief into joy, out of mourning into a festival, out of darkness into a great light, out of slavery into redemption. We will recite a new song before God. Hallelujah. And as we recite Psalm 114, we refill our cups in preparation for the second cup of wine. All right. And please feel free to join to sing. Again, this really would sound like a big mishmash if everyone was singing it together, but sing it home on mute. Etzeit Yisrael miMitzrayim, Beit Yaakov me'Amoez, Hayta Yehuda lekodsha, Yisrael mamshelotav, Vayanos, Ayardain Yisafar, Erim Rakaducha Elim, Evaot Kivnei Son, Mother Hayam, Mother Itanus, Ayardain. You can unmute for this part. Tisa Flachor, Eharim,
Ehavim,
Tirkaducha Elim, Give out, Kivnei Son, Milifnei Adon, Uli Aretz, Milifnei Eloha Yaakov, Achi Hatzor, Agamayim, Alamish,
Lemanomayim.
All right, if we could ask everyone to mute and raise our glasses of wine for the second cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri haolam. So before we do the second hand washing, we come back to also more physiological kind of a question, medical type question. Once the CDC gives us the green light to, we're only slowly inching back into normalcy. I see some families together. I'm assuming it's everyone has had both vaccines and being safe. Once we're really able, once herd immunity has taken place, and Dr. Anthony Fauci has said, it's time that we resume as close to how we used to be as possible. What is the first thing you will do? Or what is something you have done since, what's the first thing you did once it was safe for you and your loved ones to come together again, having had both vaccines and waiting the 2 weeks? If you want to share that in the chat, if you want to unmute, potluck, woo! I love a good potluck. I am a potluck gal. We're almost ready to have dinner, Melody, pretty soon. Attend theater and plays. Oh my goodness, yes. Concerts, plays, Shabbat dinners. Yeah, yes. Dr. Roth? Travel. Oh, yes, Jeff Goomer. I know you and your
the first thing that I did, we
Yeah.
did after everybody had vaccines, was went up to Mom's place and held her like we were never going to let go. It was a year before we could go up and see Mom.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Not a dry eye, I am sure.
Not.
I am sure. Come to Louisville and watch my niece play lacrosse for Manual. Lacrosse and field hockey. Yep. I'm sure all the kids are ready to go back to camp. That's something else. Overnight camp's going to happen this summer. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the plan is that the Jewish camps will be open. It's another thing. Yeah, gosh, plays, theater, hugging. I, for one, really have been very pained not being able to visit people in hospitals and nursing homes, and understanding that I couldn't be there in their last few days, or knowing that they were suffering from just painful loneliness. Not that I'm the only one who can come visit them, but that gave a lot of meaning to what I do. And developing relationships with people and not being able to be there to hold their hand or sing with them or pray with them has been very hard for me. And that's something that I'm looking forward to. I cannot wait. I'll drive all over town to all the far-flung nursing homes put all the miles on my car to go see everybody. I am now going, I'm on the Camp Livingston Medical Committee. Camp Livingston will be open. Yes, Camp Livingston will be open. Thank you, Russ. And I know, Leia's going, she's very excited and doing Adventures Unlimited where they go to different places and visit. So I'm turning this over now to the Pinchas Simonik family for Rachsa. As we all ritually wash our hands, they will lead us in the blessings for Rachsa and also for Motzi Matzah. So we wash and then we bless. Kind of love that sound. Sounds like a gong. Okay, I got a lap, of the towel. Okay, take it away, Pinchas Simonik family.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher k'dishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu
al netzilat yadayim. Praise to you, Adonai. You want to read also in English?
Praise to you, Adonai, creator of the world, who sanctified us with commandments and instructed us.
Amen. And we take the matzah, and before we eat the matzah, I'm going to distribute this into my family. Dad. Okay. Motzi matzah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher k'dishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah.
Amen. And
Creator of the world, who breaks forth bread from the earth. Praise to you, Adonai, creator of the world, who sanctified commandments and eat matzah.
thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. Rabbi Miles, you have the job of explaining Maror, or leading us in the blessing for Maror. So
We're going to take the bitter with the sweet. We're going to take a little piece of genuine Maror and dip it into genuine Charosis. And we're going to, once we do that, we're going to recite the bracha together. And here we go.
No, we make this.
We are at the top of page 17. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. Praise are you, Adonai, our God, creator of the world, who has sanctified us with the commandments and instructed us to eat bitter herbs. Enjoy.
Amen. So we're eating this sandwich. I have another question. It's very similar to some of the other ones I've asked, but it might spark some different answers. How has this year been both bitter and how has it been sweet? Bitter and sweet, maybe at the same time. Feel free to answer in the chat, or if you are so inclined. Because it's very important. Many of the elements of the Seder combine sadness and pain, remembering the pain of our ancestors, and also celebrating and living it up and even eating wonderful food. It's constantly this balancing act, because both aspects of Passover are very important. This way of eating matzah, maror, and charoset reminds us of how Hillel would do so when the second temple still existed, making a sandwich of the Passover lamb, matzah, and maror, fulfilling the Torah injunction. With matzot and maror, they shall eat the Passover lamb. Passover lamb is no longer part of our ritual. It's symbolically represented by the shank bone, or a picture of a shank bone, as we have in our house. Didn't have a chance to actually go out and get one. And you can have some fun reading this little bottom. Which came first, England or the Jews? Did the British come up with the sandwich first, or did the Jews come up with the sandwich first? And that's kind of a fun little fun little thing to read. So here we are, Shulchan Orech, the meal, the answer to when are we eating? The answer is now. And we're going to take a break. You can turn your screens off. You can turn off your speakers, mute yourself. Batei avon, yes. And please join us and please come back. Let's say it's 7:22 now. Should we say 8 o'clock? There's really not much left of the Seder. It's sort of an abbreviated second part with Birkat Hamazon, Eliyahu Hanavi opening the door for Elijah. I will say if some people want to eat the meal and finish the Seder on their own, you have this Haggadah, you may have other Haggadot at home. It is totally up to you. B'tei avon, signing off for now.